So I loved Altered Carbon, but I had a couple of problems, in particular with the last couple episodes. Now, before I get to that, I also didn't like how Kovacs, we got the two versions of him, the Japanese and the white, and I wish that we got a better idea that it was the same person. Now, intellectually, you knew it was the same person, but I just wish the acting and the directing, they did more things to show little mannerisms, little figures of speech where you could watch it and really feel like these two characters were the same person. Now, it's really cool when you have one actor playing two different roles, and it's really cool to see one actor convey two personalities so well. What I wanted to see here was the reverse. I wanted to see two different actors really convey the same personality and sync up. But nonetheless, start of episode 9, I couldn't have been more excited for the end of the season. We had so many great things that had happened in previous episodes, even early scenes with Kristen's family that had felt a bit like dead weight and you weren't sure why they were in there. They were crucial because they made, when her family was actually murdered, it actually hit really hard. And then we got this great murder mystery moment where Kovacs got everybody in a room and spun the story about who committed the murder and why. And I thought it was really satisfying, and it didn't change it, no less satisfying because you knew it wasn't true. And then we had this great montage moment where there's this voiceover about how you have to create the truth or create a lie by ripping stuff from the truth. And you'd think there's going to be another great reveal, and when you find out who actually committed the mystery, it's going to be this huge shocking twist. And it wasn't. When they revealed who actually was behind everything, it was the evil people that you knew were evil and horrible all along. So they did try to kind of, tie all these loose ends and tie it into a neat bow, but I couldn't help but being somewhat let down that there wasn't more of a shock in the last episode 9 and 10. The shocks for me came earlier in the season, which while they were still good, I don't know, I can't help but feel like I want some shocks later in the season as well. And then with Lizzie, they had her in the virtual reality, throwing knives, seeming to lose her mind a bit, talking about spiders spinning their webs, talking about Cassandra falling in the temple and snakes crawling into her ears. Seems like she's becoming unhinged, and I was so excited for what they were going to do with her. And then they just they had her do what was predictable. She came back to life and kicked some ass, which was cool. But the way they just built up this creepy, suspenseful vibe where it seemed like she was losing it, and then they didn't really do anything with that, I was disappointed. And then for a show that I felt like 6, 7, and 8, there was just so much going on that was so expansive, I feel like everything just collapsed in on itself in the last couple episodes in a way I didn't like, and everything became about Rey and how she was this big villainess. And while she had an interesting backstory about how the abuse she'd suffered as a kid and kind of made her tough and never want to be put in that position again, and she wore the mother's necklace not out of tribute because her mother was weak, because she was an abuse victim and she was never going to be weak like her mother. It was an interesting backstory, but they made her such a cartoonish villain, so horrible, no humanity left at all. I found that she wasn't an interesting enough villain to really sustain all the attention of the end of the show. And then the other villain we had, Ghostwalker, it was interesting hearing him talk about how humanity's always prayed to gods, and for the first time ever, gods are responding. And it was kind of interesting philosophy, but he just came across as somewhat delusional, naive, kind of pathetic, and I just never really felt he was particularly menacing as a villain. He felt just kind of like a lunatic, but not a scary lunatic, just kind of a sad lunatic. So the fight scenes with him at the end, I just didn't feel he was a great villain either. And when Ghostwalker killed Poe, the AI, I really didn't like that either. One, Poe is just such a great, memorable, awesome character. For him to die in what I thought was kind of a silly way, and it lost any sense of trying to say, oh, this is science fiction that's actually true to science. Why is Ghostwalker holding this button causing this AI to fade away? Like, any sense that this is believable science was completely lost. And then the part where Kovacs splits his consciousness, I got really excited for it, and I thought it was going to be great. But one, they never really explained clearly why it was necessary and why he was doing it. And then two, they never really explored this really monumental thing that they decided to do in the show. They really seemed like they glossed over it and rushed through it. And I feel like if you're going to do it, at least explain a good reason for it, or at least delve into some of the philosophical issues surrounding it, which I thought they didn't. So I feel like I wish they didn't do it. And I also feel episodes 6, 7, we really started exploring these issues of immortality and the different viewpoints towards it. And we have Kel, and it would be interesting to see how far she would go to cure humanity of this perceived evil of immortality, how many people she would kill. And I wish that they explored this more. I feel like episode 9 and 10, it was just all about this brother-sister relationship. It was about this murder mystery and finding out what really happened. And it was about this change in society of being able to revive people who've been murdered to try to catch their killer, which I just felt those were just some of the least interesting aspects of the show relative to the other really interesting ideas and very maybe controversial issues where you'd see Kovacs have to make a choice between killing people or following Kel. Or sorry, following Kel or, I don't know, follow Kel and kill people or side with his sister and the rest of the regime who believed in immortality. I think that was a really interesting thing they could have explored, disappointed they didn't. But nonetheless, none of this changes the fact I love the show. I'm going to put in the description lots of other videos I've made about the show that are much more positive, talking about all the awesome things I liked about it. Definitely check those out.